people and backgrounds and parents from 30 different countries and 22 states in the United States. So it's a great weekend, and we're blessed with beautiful autumn weather, and Suffield looks spectacular, I think. I have just a few comments, and then would really prefer to have an interactive discussion with you. A couple students joined us. If we have time to hear from them, I'll introduce them in a few moments. What we've been trying to do at the 30,000-foot level most strategically is have an academically challenging, traditional boarding school that's incredibly nurturing and supportive. And that has been where we've positioned Suffield. Those are the talking points that you'll hear from pretty much everybody associated with the school. And we found that that position seems to be in demand. Last year we had just under 1,100 students apply for 120 spaces. We've got more people involved in the destiny of the school in terms of making it a philanthropic priority. We've invested heavily, as you can see, in the physical plant. So we're trying to combine an atmosphere and a strategy for working with young people with outstanding facilities and an outstanding faculty. And that's really the recipe for where we've positioned the school. So I couldn't be more proud of what we're doing because the values of the school are very consistent with my own. It's unpretentious, it's deeply committed to helping each student succeed. But I would say, as I was telling the 50th reunion class, in my time it's gotten a lot more strategic. So when I started as head, it was much more about infrastructure and blocking and tackling, and making sure we had enough students and could pay our bills and could meet payroll. And now it's much more strategic about where are we positioning the school, can we get the students that we most want, what's our yield, how are we doing with them, are we getting them in the right colleges and universities, and how do we make this more sustainable over a period of time. So with that background, I could share a little bit of data and then answer some questions. Go ahead, Matt. Okay, so as I mentioned, this value proposition of what we're doing is different. You're not going to hear a lot of schools in New England of this ilk talk about nurturing and support. You'll hear academic rigor, you'll hear structure, you'll hear challenge. All those things exist here, very high standards of conduct, but there's an approach to how we work with students that really shapes who we hire and what the atmosphere is like at the school. We're committed to having an enrollment around 400 to 410. We've been at that level for 13 years, and all of our planning is based on that. That's the key decision in running this type of place, because once you know your enrollment size, you know what type of staff size you need, you know what you need for a physical plant, and what you need for a program. So the essential point is a school of 250 kids like a Millbrook or a Gunnery is just different than a school of 800 like a Mount Herman or a Deerfield. And Suffield is very intentional about 410. It's small enough that we can have sit-down lunch with assigned seating, small enough that I know every family, big enough that there's real depth in the program, both in the academic offerings and in the extracurricular offerings. We're going to continue to get selective, and what I found in this work is that the school rises and falls with the applicant pool. When you're strong in admissions, pretty much everything in the school is strong. The spirit of the students, the spirits of the faculty, the college placement, the athletic teams, the arts programs, your ability to raise money, your ability to have true diversity of all sorts, kind of all flows from admissions. So if I'm advising schools, that's where I'd start, is put your emphasis and your resources in student recruitment. We want to continue to build the resource base to have this type of facility and to build our permanent endowment so that we're not at the mercy of fluctuations in enrollment or economics, and that's an ongoing challenge and priority for the school. And we're about 80% way through a campus master plan that was developed 6 years ago, and I can talk you through that. Matt? We want to keep the school largely the same as when our alumni were here. Key to this is things that we know work, we're not going to change, like sit-down lunch and required evening study hall and required afternoon participation, Saturday morning classes, dress code. Those things are timeless and not changing. But things that do change are required leadership program. We teach Mandarin Chinese. We have much more vibrant arts programs, both in and out of the curriculum. We have a 4-year college counseling program that we think is really cutting edge and provides extra value. And it's developmentally well thought out and staffed appropriately, and it has a new space for it. Go ahead. You can see here that our enrollment since I became the head is roughly the same, but the applicant pool is about 50% bigger. So we've gone from just under 700 to just under 1,100 in that period of time. And that obviously has made it a little harder to get in. So one of the questions is, what do the 27% that get in look like, and what distinguished them from the 73 that didn't? But it was just under half, and now it's just under 30%. This is the percentage of people making a gift of any size, from $1 to a big gift, but it's remarkably high. It's the top quartile in the country in terms of percentages. It's 9 out of 10 parents and 4 out of 10 alumni. And that's obviously led to greater resources, much of which has been invested in the plan. So of this 80 million, about 60 million has gone into the campus, from Brewster to Holcomb Science to Hoffman College Counseling to Tisch Fieldhouse. And then about 17 of it has gone into the endowment, and the rest has supported operations through the annual fund. So you can see when we started, this was our plan from 05 to 09. This was the first 5 years that Hillary and I led the school. We were basically moving everything onto the west side of Main Street. So the very bottom of that slide is Main Street, and when many of our alums in here were here with dorms across the street. We now use those dorms for faculty homes. Each building has 4 units, and we have a child care center there for our faculty and staff children. And we still have 2 playing fields and our tennis courts. And now our maintenance building, which was here when many of you went to school, is now on the east side of campus. So we really consolidated everything onto the west and got more of a north-south axis. So we're right in the middle, but the dorms are to the north. The blue dorms were funded in the mid-90s through a bond. We borrowed that money. And then red was funded in the early 2000s through money we raised. That's Rockwell Dorm on the right. That's in addition to this building in the middle. That's Tisch Fieldhouse, and that's Centurion Hall. What's interesting about this footage is that it didn't change enrollment at all. It was all aimed at accommodating the 410 much more efficiently. So for example, we had 1 basketball court and 6 teams, and we had to have practices till 10:30 at night. Now we have sports from 3:30 to 5:30 for everybody. So we finished that and kind of geared up for the next phase, and we found 2 things. One was the buildings that were built in the late 50s, which is the core of the campus, have about a 50-year lifespan before they needed major renovation and rejuvenation, so that was one. 2 was we wanted better space for college counseling. We wanted to emphasize that program and be more deliberate about it. And 3, we wanted to get the road out of the middle of the campus, which was Stiles Lane. So we built our next plan, which was the things that are circled. That was the science building, so we got renovated Holcomb Science and added about 40% more square footage. We put college counseling in the bottom of Fuller Hall, actually on the top floor and the bottom floor on the back side. We put the addition over Brewster. We first had to build that perimeter road on the far right so that we would have vehicle access to Tisch Fieldhouse and the fields. And that is the very tip of our property to the north, but that gave us the spot for the addition to the dining room and the student center. And then we turned that road into a central campus walkway. I think that's one of our greatest achievements in terms of the physical space, is making the campus much more cohesive and connecting the 2 quads. And you can see some visuals of that on the next few slides. So that's Holcomb Science. That was a $6.5 million project funded through gifts. This is the footprint for the dining room. So you see that line in the center. That's where the building used to end. And the addition, so it went from 27,000 to 40,000 square feet. You can't really tell the scale of it from the east side because it's on a hill, so it looks like a rather small addition. But in the next slide, looking from the west, you'll see it really has become the anchor of the campus and the center of kind of student activity after dinner, and a wonderful space connecting. That opened just a year ago for the start of school. That's the student center. The day student locker room is now in there. It's a much better space. And now we are just about finishing this plan. The next project is Memorial Building, which has an arrow but no red circle around it. That's the original school building. It's 150 years old. It was last renovated about 50 years ago. It's a very inefficient building if you're in there in February and it's freezing cold and the windows are wide open because the heat is an antiquated system being cooled from water underground from Fuller. So it needs a great deal of maintenance, and we're going to rejuvenate it and make it a new building. It's in the Suffield Historic District, which is anything that's visible from Main Street within 500 feet. We need approval from the Historic Town Commission, which is a peculiar process and candidly pretty challenging. We went to them with several different versions before we got approval, but we did get approval in August to move forward with the project. So the front will look, or the east side will look very similar, except for the stair tower, will have more transparency. But the west side will essentially become the front, and you can see that on the next one. The back will essentially be the front, so everything will be, will enter from the quad. You guys have a good school too. You got the new dining room. So we're hoping, I can explain a little bit about the logistics. Go to the next one. These are the floor plans. That's the top floor where the terrace was. There's going to be a tech area and then the terrace overlooking the quad. The other side are classrooms that are facing Main Street. So there'll be 21 classrooms, all of the same size that are in the Centurion, about 500 or 600 feet. Next. This is the third floor or second floor, so that's just classrooms, and the academic support office will be in a very prominent place on the second floor. We're going to try to have it be very modern inside and very traditional outside, with a lot of glass and light. To do that, we're first going to, the red barn, which is just behind here, is also in the historic district, and we want to add a dorm there. So we finally got approval to knock the barn down and build the dorm in the style of a barn. So the faculty residences that are attached to the dorm will look like a barn. But that will be faculty apartments. And the dorm, in its first year, will all be temporary classrooms, because we have to figure out where the 18 classrooms in Memorial will be housed, because we're taking the building offline. And we haven't had to take a building offline like this. For Brewster, we took it offline in the summers, but we had access during the school year. So we have to replace 18 classrooms, 2 department offices, and several administrative functions like marketing and academic administration and technology. So we're going to be using various parts of the campus, including the new dormitory, and we're not going to have any trailers. We found a way to make this work. It will be somewhat inconvenient, but the space will be great, especially in this building. I think the next picture has the floor plan. That's when it's a dorm, so those walls will be chopped. They'll essentially be built as classrooms and then moved. The drywall will be moved. The dorm will be between 16 and 21 students. It will achieve 2 goals. One, it will relieve some triples in Fuller Hall. Right now we have too many kids living in Fuller Hall. The infrastructure of the building is not ideal for 40 boys. I don't know what building would be ideal for 40 boys. That one is not. So some of it will be replacement of existing beds, and some will give us a little more flexibility with our boarding and day mix, which is currently, we have between 260 and 270 beds, depending on how many triples and singles we have, and this will get us up to about 280. So it won't change the top line 410, but it'll give us a little more flexibility with the mix of boarding and day students if economics and demographics shift. It's really aimed at preserving the 410. Our endowment, as I mentioned, is $43 million. When I became the head, it was $17 million, so it's not as big as I'd like, but we've been in a period of massive investment in the campus. I don't know if we would have been able to raise the same amount of money if we weren't doing these projects. A lot of the gifts were from parents who were very excited about seeing the physical plan improve while their children were here. But we are still trying to slog away and get our endowment to where it belongs as a school of this quality. Our debt load is low. It's $12 million. It's a 30-year loan. It's a 2.7% interest rate. There's no prepayment penalty. We did look at possibly borrowing money for Memorial and putting the money we've raised into the endowment, given the historically low interest rates, and hoping we could get a better return than what we would borrow at. But we decided last week that we don't want to add additional debt to the school if we don't need to, and we're going to use the money we've raised to build the building. That's about it for the foundation of the school right now. The most important thing to me is that the culture of the school is resolute, and the faculty is incredibly dedicated. Students are very proud of the school. They totally understand what they're getting into when they get here, and it's just very unique to be surrounded by 410 students that all love what they're doing and are so proud of the school and buy into the rituals and expectations of them. They're very ambitious for their futures, but they're not cutthroat, competitive. I think that they understand that this is a challenging, our faculty certainly understands it's a challenging period between 14 and 18, and how you blend high standards and rules with the realities of adolescence is really the heart of the challenge and the beauty of it all. So that's what I'd say is the physical plant might change, but the essence of the school and the academy I don't think is changing at all.
I'm Amelia Hearn. I'm a day student from West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm a senior.
And her mom went here, and her brother went here, and now her younger brother goes here.
Hi, I'm Hannah Arthur. I'm a boarder from West Orange, New Jersey, and a senior.
Hello, I'm Graham Shannon. I'm a boarder from Avon, Connecticut, and I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Catherine Khalil. I'm a day student from Westfield, Massachusetts. I'm also a senior.
I'm Brandon Leal. I'm a boarder at Fuller Hall in Proctor there. I'm originally from Canada, but now live in Hong Kong.
Hi, I'm Jonah Perry. I'm also a 3-year senior. I'm Brandon's roommate, also a proctor at Fuller, and I live in Santiago, Chile.
And they're all going through the college process, so don't ask about that. Although Brandon is one of the lucky few who's already committed to college, and he's going to Dartmouth next year. Wow. Congratulations, Brandon. Are there questions for me or for the students, or anything you'd like to discuss? Yes?
So what do you do with the endowment money?
We draw a percentage of it into operations every year to supplement tuition, and we invest the rest of it. So our draw is between 4 and 5%. Right now it's 4.7%, and then we invest the rest of it to try to hopefully offset that draw. So in essence, the bigger the endowment is, the less dependent we are on tuition, and the less important the ability to pay is in admissions. So when I look at, we compare financial data with 40 schools that range in wealth from Andover and Exeter with their billion-dollar endowments to much smaller schools. So we're in the bottom quartile in terms of endowment, but just being in the 40 is a sign of strength. And when I look at who has the highest tuition discount rate, meaning the most financial aid, not the most kids getting aid, but the most amount of money being committed to that as a percentage of your budget, it's the wealthiest and the least wealthy. So you look at Andover, the ability to pay is not a huge factor in admissions. You look at a school on the bottom of that, and if a kid can pay half, it's better than an empty bed. They're using financial aid to increase enrollment. So I would like to, right now, our discount rate is about 22%, goes to about 1/3 of our families. It would be wonderful if that could be 25%. Or if our faculty comp, which is right now in the middle of the overlap group, could be at the upper middle of the overlap group. And that would be dependent on more non-tuition revenue. So the way the budget works right now is 80% of the revenue is from tuition, 10% is from the unrestricted annual fund, and 10% is from the endowment income. And the way we spend it is roughly between 50 and 60% people with salaries and benefits. The school is intentionally inefficient. There are a lot of people working here. And that's the beauty of it, is the quality and volume of the people and the quality and volume of the facilities are why the expenses are high and why the tuition is high. Yes?
Did you have an estimate on the cost of renovating Memorial Hall?
Yes, it's going to be a $17 million project, and the dorm is going to be a $5 million project. It's $22 million of construction, and we've raised about $18.5 million. So if somebody would like to help with the stick around afterwards, let me know, because that would really be wonderful. Yes?
Yeah, I'm wondering what the admissions yield is and how that compares to, whatever schools you might measure against, both those that you aspire to approach and those that you feel you're doing better than.
It's half. What his question is, what percentage of the students that we accept us? So we accept 27% of the applicants, and half of them chose to join us. It's slightly higher for our day students, who tend to apply to fewer schools. Most of our boarding students, they can speak to this, apply to 6 or 7 schools. I was worried our yield would go down as our applicant pool went up because the overlap group has gotten increasingly competitive, but it has stayed the same.
Right, but how does it compare to some collection of peer schools?
The most selective schools actually have a lower yield because
Right.
they're banging heads against each other. So Deerfield and Andover and Exeter and St. Paul's are all fighting for the same kids. So it's a little higher, is the answer. Mike?
Charlie, what's the ideal size endowment for a school of this size?
What's in my mind right now is 2 times the operating budget net of debt. So that would be $40 million net. Right now we're at like 30 million. I mean, ideal would be 100 million. But the debt loads at a lot of these schools are very high. The cheap money has been very attractive. So some school, like there's one school that's underwater that we know that has more debt than endowment. But like Loomis Chaffee has $120 million of endowment and about 60 million in bonds. Yes?
What is the ratio of boarding to day students, and do you plan on seeing that ratio change at all in the future?
It's 2/3 boarding. We were worried that our day student applicant pool was dropping after the financial correction, 08-09. It's now perked back up. I've actually been surprised how many students from Suffield, the town of Suffield, are applying. It was very predictable at about a dozen for many years, and now it's about 20. I don't get a concrete answer from my son's parents' friends because he's of that age, but it's a combination of factors I hear from the academy getting nicer and some dissatisfaction with the public schools, primarily with college counseling. So we're kind of riding this wave of the day student pool remaining strong and looking for the kids that are the best fit. Other questions? Yeah.
What about memorial classroom structure? Are we going to be moving towards more round table rooms? Are we going to have more traditional classroom
Yes,
style rooms?
mostly around tables. The departments in there are foreign language and English, so they do lend themselves to Harkness-style classrooms. I think it will be a great new building. It's going to be wonderful, especially tie the academic quad together. Others, yeah.
Yeah, can you comment on town and gown relationships, both at kind of the political level where you have to deal with city councils and whatnot, and also sort of the social level, how the townspeople and the academy sort of see each other?
I think it's very strong. I mean, you guys could speak to it better than me, but I hear stories from the 60s and 70s where it wasn't particularly strong and there was acrimony. I don't sense any of that. And fortunately or unfortunately, we have a close relationship with the Suffield Police and the Suffield Fire Department. And, even though we don't pay property tax on everything, we are a big taxpayer. A lot of our faculty homes are still on the tax rolls. We make a pilot gift to the town every year. So, we're heavily involved. We have a lot of teachers that coach Little League teams and are involved with town sports, and we have a lot of families that have kids in the Suffield Public Schools until they get here, including me. Yeah.
Maybe I could ask the students a question.
Sure.
You've gone back you just got back from the summer, and you guys, the seniors, have been looking at college, and we think that the program here at Suffield is somewhat unique in terms of college counseling. Can you compare and contrast your feelings towards what you heard from your peers back at home during the summer, how the process went?
Go ahead, Anna.
Well, the best thing about college counseling here, I think, is that we get assigned college counselors the
Face
winter.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
don't answer me.
The winter of our junior year, we get back from winter break and we get assigned a college counselor. But even then, beforehand, we're talking to the college counselors, and they bring us in a couple times throughout the year and get a sense of like what kind of colleges we're looking at, what kind of people we are, so they get to know us better. And then when you first get assigned your college counselor, you go in for a meeting with them, and you don't talk about colleges at all. You just talk about yourself, so that they can get a good fit of who you are, and so that when you go on break for the summer, instead of just like laying around all day, you're working on college stuff pretty early on, and that gives us a big advantage when we come back. So when we have our senior year workload, it's not piled on completely with all of our college application stuff, because we have a good portion of that done. And the first weekend on campus, the college counselors have us do a college counseling session during the day, and we rotate through the college counselors, and they tell us what to do with different things for supplements, if we're applying for EA, ED, what to do with those, and all the other great stuff about college. And I have friends right now who are now just starting the Common App profiles, and we finished ours before we even got here.
We meet deadlines. Like in the summer as well. So like she was saying, so we got back and we were assigned to already have our Common App done and our essay pretty much done. And then when we got back, our English teachers worked with us individually on our essays to finalize them. So now a lot of us are, like I've talked to a lot of my friends from home who are just now starting their Common Apps and are completely overwhelmed. Whereas we obviously have a very heavy workload, and a lot of us are involved in numerous different activities. So having those deadlines early on in the summer, although it was dreadful over the summer to have to work on them, it ended up being super helpful. And now we're all in very good positions for college and for our futures, I think. And our college counselors have stayed in contact with us, as well as the people who we asked to write our recommendations. So we're very in touch with every one of our teachers and our mentors at the school, and they've helped us a lot with keeping ourselves organized and ready for college.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, just to add perspective between prep schools. My brother and I are 4 years apart, and he went to another prep school around here. And when I was applying to Suffield, he was applying to colleges and kind of going through the same thing. And when I came to the revisit day, my dad and I we were asking Ms. Salvatelli, who's in the college counseling office, we were asking her more questions and getting more feedback on what my brother Phil should do than what he got from his own coach. So that being said, I just think...
Tell him about your first day of school that you told us. I forgot to.
So I had to make a chapel speech. It's a new speaker series where seniors have to make a 3 to 5 minute chapel speech on Monday afternoons.
First year.
And my first day on campus is Tiger Games, which is where kind of students dress down and participate in kind of not Olympic, but orientation games. Yeah, it's orientation. And I was so excited, and my parents were so excited that I was coming to Suffield. I walked in with pretty much a brand new suit on and jacket tie, and brand new penny loafers. And as I'm walking up the stairs, I can see pretty much the whole school is decked out in Suffield gear, athletic shorts, sneakers. And I turn to my dad, I'm like, Dad, this is not what I need right now. Oh my gosh, I look so bad. And so we get to the dining hall, and Mr. Can comes up and asks me how my day is going. And I said, oh, it's going good, it's going good. And he goes, well, do you know what Tiger Games is? I said, no, I don't know what Tiger Games is. And so then he offered...
He said, what size are you?
Yeah, he said, what size waist are you? Because you're going to need some shorts to participate. I said, oh, no, it's okay. And so I went downstairs to get some athletic apparel from the bookstore.
We got them all decked out.
But that was my first day on Suffield. I loved it ever since.
Oh, great.
Back to college. I'm sure that the vast majority of kids leaving school go to college. Have you any idea the percentage that go to U.S. colleges versus international versus Canada? Or
probably 95% in the U.S. So what we've developed is a 4-year program that we think is developmentally appropriate. And when we first came up with it, people said, why are you adding stress in 9th grade? And the answer was, we're reducing stress because we know more about adolescent development, and dumping all of this on them in the middle of the junior year while they're taking all of these AP and honors classes and have SATs and ACTs is not wise. So in 9th grade, it's minimal, but here's what a cumulative GPA is. Here's what a transcript means. Here's the difference between a college and a university. Then we take them on a tour just to walk around the college. In 10th grade, it becomes here's what early action and early decision are, and nomenclature about the process. In 11th grade, there's a 10-week course in the leadership program They build a resume, they do mock interviews, they learn about Naviance, which is the web-based software that we use. So we think by the time they hit the fall of the senior year, they know where they're applying, they've done their supplements. It's not that it's not challenging or stressful, it's that it's sequenced in time differently than it was in the past. And we hire 5 full-time college counselors. It used to be here that it would be somebody with a reduced teaching load helping kids with their college search. Now that is their reason for being here.
I found myself my summer going into my junior year. I found myself my summer going into my junior year going on visits and having them be like, oh, do you guys know what this term is? Or have you ever heard of whatever, early action, early decision? And I knew every single thing that they were talking about, and that's when I was like 15, so that says a lot, I think, because it was just how far ahead I was compared to the majority of the other students touring with me who were a lot older than me, said something about our program and all that I learned and how it was so sequential, because we learned so much early on that led us to sort of be ahead now. So that says something.
Yes?
What's the timeline for the new building?
We're starting the new dorm next week, and we're hoping to have it done for the start of school next year. So those would be part of the temporary classroom solution. And we would take Memorial offline, assuming we can finish this fundraising, the day school ends this year, and open it for the 18-19 academic year. It'll be offline for 1 full year. Yeah.
What are your statistics for legacies this year?
We have about 35 students whose parents went here. It's just under 10% of the school. And then we have about 70 siblings. Some are siblings and legacies. But there's obviously a deep family connection to the school, like you. Others? Yeah.
You said the total population, student population is 410?
Yes.
Are there any long-term plans on increasing that?
No.
Or no?
No. It's 410 students. It's about 150 people working here. 80 faculty and 70 staff. Yes.
How many students you accept for the test grade at 11th grade compared with 9th grade?
We go from 70 freshmen to about 110 sophomores, and then we add about 10 kids in grade 11 and 10 postgraduates. 10th grade is a big entry point because a lot of schools in New England end in grade 9, and many of those are junior boarding schools, so you're not having to sell the whole notion of boarding school. You're just differentiating your school from the others that they're looking at. So like Jonah and Brandon went to Eaglebrook School, and Graham went to Renbrook School. Those are schools that are ending grade 9. Others? I would be happy to stick around and answer any questions. I hope you can tell how proud I am of the school and how invested we are in what we're doing. I think it's a wonderful period in Suffield's history. It's really clear about what we are and what we aren't. And the level of support and the investment of our faculty is just unbelievable. It's been fascinating for me to see the school as a parent the last few years after having worked here for 2 decades. And just the amount of challenge and support and investment in our daughter's life has really been reassuring to see. It's been just a perfect fit because in certain areas it's really challenged her, and in other areas that don't come as easily to her, she's gotten a lot of support, and she's been able to play sports at varsity levels. At some schools she wouldn't be able to do that, and that's become part of her self-identity. So seeing it firsthand as a parent has really been helpful in leading it as a headmaster. It's a crazy lifestyle. You have 400 kids here 7 days a week, and they're still adolescents. They're the best, but they still do things that boggle your mind at times. They're in a place where so many people care about them, and I'm sure our young alums feel this. You probably never in their life are going to be in a place where so many people are wondering how they're doing and want to help them do well. And it's really a remarkable exercise in community. So thanks for being here. Thanks for caring about the school. Enjoy this great day. And if you want to spend some time together, just stick around.